Welcome to the One More Chapter Book Club. Thank you so much for joining me today on this kind of rainy day. Well, it is in London anyways, but you know, what's new there? Please tell me where you're coming to us live from, and hopefully it's sunnier perhaps where you are. But we shall certainly be having a very fun discussion today to chase away any Wednesday blues, as I'm going to be joined by the fantastic Rebecca Smith and Nicola Gill. Bex joined us quite a few months ago now, right at the beginning of lockdown, on our second ever One More Chapter book club. And we discussed her hilarious new novel at that time, More Than Just Mum. Today we'll be catching up with Bex on the second book in the series that has just been released. It's been quite a few months, hasn't it, in lockdown? And her newest book is called Faking It. And it sees Hannah Thompson navigate the tricky landscape of being a wife, mother, teacher, and also now a secret erotica author. What could possibly go wrong in that mix? And this is Nicola's first time on the One More Chapter book club, so please welcome her warmly. Nicola also writes hilarious, heartwarming, and very relatable fiction. We'll be hearing all about her brilliant debut, The Neighbours, which is a funny, honest, and moving exploration of life, love, friendship, and navigating the emotional roller coaster of your 30s and beyond. We'll also hear all about her next book, We Are Family, which is just releasing in only a few weeks. So please tag any family or friends that you think will enjoy our chat, and especially if you think they need something fun to brighten their Wednesday. And also ask us any and all questions, as we love hearing from you. But without further ado, please help me in welcoming Bex and Nicola. I shall bring them both in.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. How are you both?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. And so as I always ask at the beginning, where are you both coming to us live from? Nicola, would you like to go first?
Oh, I'm in London too, so yes, lots of rain today.
Also rainy, yeah. How about you?
I'm in very rainy Dorset.
Okay, so there's rain everywhere now. It's a bit of a contrast to last week, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was quite hot. Did you both fare okay in the heat?
Yeah, the hotter the better.
Yeah, I'm of that view as well. What about you, Nicola?
Do you know what? I'm generally of that view, and I get very cross with people when they moan about the sun. But last week it did get a little bit too sticky for me, especially given that I was still working, and I was a bit like, okay, break my own rules and moan a bit.
Yeah, I think maybe especially like in the city, because after a while there's just no breeze, and then it's like I'm actually struggling to breathe a bit, I think.
Yeah.
But you get fresher air in Dorset, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah, nice cool breeze most of the time.
Yeah, see that's nice. So yeah, where is everyone else? Where are you coming to us live from? We love to hear, and please tell us as well if it's raining or not, and also if you prefer the rain or the sunshine. I think that's a good conversation starter. But anyway, so you're both here to talk about books, which is much more exciting than the weather. So thank you both for joining me on this lunchtime for a lunchtime chat. So to start off, I'm going to ask a very, very classic author question, and I'm going to bring the question up on the screen as I always do. And so my first question to you both is, how did you both first start writing? I think that's key, obviously, to becoming an author. So Nicola, would you like to start us off?
Do you know, I first announced rather grandly that I wanted to be an author when I was 5 years old. So I was
amazing.
a kid. And then having said that, it then took me forever to actually start writing. And I'm not really sure why. I think all the normal reasons, you know, work and kids. But I think also a bit sort of lack of confidence. You know, if I didn't try, I couldn't fail. I didn't actually start writing for quite a while, actually. But anyway, I have started and now I love it.
Yeah, because so the Neighbours was your debut novel, though. Had you had that idea for quite a long? Was that always the sort of book that you wanted to write, or you know, or it just kind of?
I mean, certainly that type of book. But yeah, I played around with a few things. But once I started writing, I couldn't stop. So you know, I didn't do it for years and years and years. I just talked about it, and then once I started, I became obsessed.
Amazing. How about you, Bex?
Well, I writing is similar to Nicola. Writing was something that I always sort of thought, oh, I'm sure I could do that, and then just didn't. And you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? You sort of feel like, oh, I'm sure I've got a book in me somewhere, but you know, it didn't happen. And then so it was about 8 years. Well, it was 8 years ago, 2012, and I literally was clearing out a cupboard under the stairs and found my diaries. And I started keeping a diary when I was 8 and kept writing until I was 1. And just came up with an idea about what would happen if something happened to me and my kids found these diaries, particularly thinking at that point about the 16 plus age diaries and how mortifying they were, how humiliating. My ego was the size of a train. I always every thought I ever had needed to be immortalized in this page. Every experience I had with boys, every boy I liked. I had a list of boyfriends. I had a sentence in that said at the age of 13, I'd like a boyfriend not to kiss, to play Monopoly with. I was not the cool kid at all. They're awful diaries. And I thought, imagine, what do I do with them? My grandmother had diaries that she burnt because she couldn't bear the idea of anybody reading them. I haven't got that far, but I was like, I don't know what to do about this. But it came up. Then I thought, imagine writing a book about a child finding her mother's diaries. And I did. There was a children's book. So I started writing children's books in 2000. And I've had 5 children's books published under a different name. And then got curious about what else I could try and write. And kids started to get older, started to need money for driving lessons, university, all that kind of thing, and thought, you know, where's the big money in writing? Sex is really the big money. Writing erotica, and it couldn't have gone worse. It was horrendous. My attempts at writing erotica will never see the light of day. So painful. I couldn't barely. I shouldn't even be. I did this. But then I was having a conversation with someone in my family who said, that's the book, isn't it? A 40-year-old woman trying to write erotica and failing. That was the inspiration for More Than Just Mum.
Then More Than Just Mum came along. Yeah. Did I ask are there any snippets of your previous erotica writing in More Than Just Mum or faking it? Because I know there's like some snippets.
I'm not prepared to answer that question.
I love that you kind of had those inspiration from your diaries that you found. Like I kept quite a thorough diary for quite a few years when I was younger as well. I haven't looked at them. I should find them. Otherwise,
yeah, you should read them again. I mean, just for the comedy value.
Yeah. I was like, did you ever keep a diary, Nicola?
I did on and off, but I always got panicky that someone was going to find them, so I always destroyed them. And now I kind of think, oh, I wish I could see them, but I know they'd be, you know, deeply humiliating.
Well, I need to find. Well, I remember when I wrote when I was about 12 or 13, I used a invisible ink one because I was like, oh, I don't want anyone to see, you know, but then you use the torch so you could see what you'd written. And then like a couple of years later, I found them and I was like, oh, I wonder what I wrote here. But obviously it fades and then you don't have anything left. I guess that's effective. But anyway, anyone else out there? Did anyone else keep diaries when they were younger? And A, do you know where they are? B, maybe you should find them if you're not sure.
Or someone else does.
Yeah, I think that's a really good lesson that I've learned today. I need to, when I go home, I hope my mum might be watching. I'm not sure. Mum, you don't need to go finding my diaries. It's fine. But anyway, I love that. I love those answers to that first question. So I'm now going to bring us on to our next question. Which kind of touched on a little bit, but can you tell us about your inspirations for your books? Nicola, would you like to go first?
Now I always find this question really tricky to answer because honestly, I think ideas arrive in a bit of a haphazard fashion. And that's why I always have sort of notebooks with me at all times so that I can scribble things down. I do have this really bad habit of wake up in the middle of the night and thinking I've had this most brilliant idea and I must get up and write it down. And then when I look in the morning, it's utter gibberish. And I'm glad I missed a night's sleep for that. So I don't really know, but in a kind of haphazard fashion, they arrive.
Yeah, but for with the neighbors, like did did those characters come to you first, or like what was the sort of the heart of creating that story of with Ginny and
Yeah, I think it is always characters first, and I think I with the neighbours, I started to think about the pressure that people, and I think women in particular, are put under to certain boxes by a certain time in their life, that you're supposed to have, I don't know, done this by 25 and this by 30 and this, and actually for a lot of people don't always tick those boxes.
yeah.
This great sense of sort of panic, really, like what's going on. So I guess that was the seed of the idea. And then I just thought what would sort of be a nice counterpoint to that was Cassie, who's this character who has ticked all the boxes, but then it's all gone horribly wrong. She was once a very famous actress, now not so much. She's had a disastrous stint on reality TV. It's all gone very wrong for her. So she ticked her boxes, but now they've unchecked themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love it. It sounds hilarious, and we'll come on to We Are Family a bit later. But well, Bex, obviously we know sort of the start of More Than Just Mum, but making it, we return to Hannah, don't we? So, and yeah, do you want to tell us a bit about what Hannah's up to in book 2?
Well, so at the end of More Than Just Mum, she's written her attempt at some erotica and been mortified to discover that it's comedy erotica. She thought it was very serious, sensual, but not so much. And so we leave her sort of there. And at the start of Faking It, her book's been published. Her erotica, her comedy erotica has been published. To mild acclaim. She's not E.R. James, but she's struggling with how to keep that quiet at the same time as raising her 3 teenage children, and the sort of the battles between. What I'm really interested in is the everyday, the mundane, the stuff that if we were to recount our days, I do it all the time. I'm incapable of having a day without my husband walking through the door at the end of the day without me having to tell him every detail of what's happened in my day. It's all very boring, really. And not to me, and the sort of the extraordinary, hilarious, funny things that happen when we're just trying to get from breakfast through to supper time that's what I'm interested in writing about. But I'm quite anecdotal, so I steal stories that have happened to me, my children, my friends. I've not got the imagination. I couldn't write fantasy, but yeah, I like writing about the everyday, really.
No, but that's and I love, and I think that's why readers connect, and Nicola, your neighbours is just like that too, very relatable. I think that's why readers connect so much, because we do want to experience that, see characters that we can see ourselves in as well. Not just fantasy, which that is also fun to read though as well. But that kind of brings me on to my next question for you both. On that topic, and that's both of your books are described as very witty, fun, and relatable. And I mean, I guess we kind of talked about this, but why did you choose to write this genre of book in particular? Like, why was that important to you? Nicola, would you like to go first?
It's a really interesting one, because I'm not so sure whether writers pick their genre or the genre picks the writer. In as much as I think you write in your voice, and I suppose it's no coincidence that the type of books that I like best reading are also the type of books that I like writing. So if the story is funny and uplifting, but perhaps touches on some darker topics as well, that ticks all the boxes for me.
Yeah, amazing. How about you, Bex?
I think lots of us deal with life by finding the humor in it. Maybe coping mechanism, but I rarely can't find some humor in a topic of conversation, particularly if I'm talking to other women. So I think it's very rare that I will have a conversation with a female friend and we won't end up cackling with laughter, or finding something funny about a situation. And there is a coping mechanism when things are tricky and tough in that, but it works. Like it is faking it till you make it sometimes, isn't it? It is that whole finding the humor in a situation until you can process it and figure out what you're supposed to be doing. I would rather be laughing than crying. maybe.
Yeah.
Is that an answer? I think if we can find the humor in something, it does make things so much easier.
Yeah, I guess it can bring and like comfort as well to the reader, to anyone, you know, that you can see people going through similar experiences, and you know, you can then like, you know, be sad or laugh at the character, and you know, recognize those similar situations too. But so I'm going to look at some of the comments that we've got popping up here, which is lots of fun. So again, hi everyone. Thank you so much again for joining us, and please ask us lots of questions. We love.
I've just a really good comment. I haven't heard of this. Someone talking about cringe.
Yeah, I'm going to bring that from Panilla. Have you been to Cringe, an evening in London where people read their teen diaries? Oh my god! Or song lyrics they've written to a room of strangers. Great night out.
I love that.
Wow.
I mean, that's so funny. Have you been, Panilla? I guess so. Has anyone else been? That
sounds amazing.
Yeah. So would you both want to go? Would you?
I'd be very on for that.
We need a night out there
with a copious amount of wine.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's what's. I mean, it's kind of like a bit like karaoke. You know, that sort of. I think that you need to be that level of have the same amount of wine for karaoke as for reading out your diaries or song lyrics.
Oh, vulnerable. Oh, sorry. I've got actually one of my diaries has got song lyrics in that I wrote to a dead guinea pig, actually. So that was told you I was cool.
That's very, very emotional. Oh, amazing. So Sophia says this sounds fun. Unfortunately, I don't have my old notebooks and letters. Emails you sent talking about things like your first date will be interesting. Oh, that's so true. I don't know, I should, you know, if you go back over like really old texts or Facebook messages or something, that is
Facebook status. That could be fairly.
Facebook. Yeah, because there was a time when Facebook statuses were the thing, weren't they? I have done that before with some friends, and there is some cringy statuses. Yeah. Anyway, we can leave it there. Everyone. Sab has asked us a question. Lovely. I'll bring that up, which is very good. It's a very important question. What is your snack of choice when writing? I feel chocolate is very important to the writing process. That's true. Well, and what would you say, Nicola? What do you have a snack of choice?
Okay, so first of all, tea by the bucket load, Earl Grey for preference, and actual chosen snack is digestives, but good time to be asking me this because something terrible has happened to digestives. I think they've changed the recipe.
Oh my goodness.
Digestives have suddenly become a very disappointing biscuit, having been my biscuit of choice for many, many years. So I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe I won't be able to write another book. And it will be down to McVitie's.
Digestives. Yeah. When did you think that they changed the recipe? When did you first have this suspicion? Oh, did you? Can you hear me?
Is it lagged out a little?
I'm not sure. Nicola, can you hear us, or can you maybe? Seems her sound maybe has dropped out. Maybe she can't hear me now. I'm just gonna. Nicola, do you want to rejoin again? Can she? Maybe she can't tell.
Technology.
Do you, like, I feel like I need to sign up. Sure.
Sign up.
Yeah, like leave and then come back. Okay, I'm gonna cross her out, and then hopefully she'll come back in again. Okay, so hopefully she'll.
Yeah.
I'll give her. I'm sure she'll join again. Otherwise, I'll quickly send her an email. But well, anyway, Bex, what is your snack of choice when writing?
I agree with the cups of tea. Half drunk cups of builder's tea. I'm a bit of a prevaricator. So once I sit down to write, I'll be like, yes, I'm going to sit and write, because I'm a teacher as well. So I'm working most of the week, but it's writing day I'll cherish, and I'll think, yeah, this has got to be my precious writing time. And then I'll sit down and I'll look at Facebook and I'll look at Twitter and I'll look at the weather and I'll check the news. I'll rant and rave at the news for a little bit about the state of the union. Then eventually I will get onto writing, but by the time I get onto writing, then I'll write for hours at a time and won't lift my head up. So not snacking while I write afterwards.
Because you're just, because you're so focused.
And because I've wasted so much time mucking about on beforehand, that there's no time for snacking once I actually sit down to write.
Fair enough. So Nicola's she's appeared here, but her picture isn't appearing in my little stream. Okay. Oh, she's there. There she is again. Okay, great. Hi. Bringing Nicola back in again. Hi.
Hi. No idea what happened.
No, don't worry. As I said, the glitching happens sometimes.
Okay.
Maybe
McVitie's were listening in, and because I was being aggressive, they just cut me off.
Yeah, probably. Well, as I asked the important question, when did you first realise that you thought that they changed the recipe?
About 2 weeks ago, and it has been a tough 2 weeks since then. Is all I can tell you. I'm biscuitless.
Biscuitless. That's very very.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to write another book. I don't know if it can.
You can't keep going without them. Has anyone else thought that they have tasted a difference in the digestive?
I only know about my own family, because I'm not quite sad enough to actually complain to McVitie's, but I feel it's a matter of time before.
I think we should create a poll. I think we should tweet. We'll do a hashtag. We'll get trending. Amazing. So I'm scrolling back up because I think I missed a few comments and questions. An update from Penilla. She said on what it's like at the diary evening. It's so much fun. Guys' diaries are, it was raining. I saw X today. I am writing in red pen. I saw X. I love him. That's so funny. I need to go. Well, that sounds hilarious. Katie's asked us a question, which is a great question. Do you ever struggle with writer's block? And if so, any tips to overcome it? Bex, would you like to go first on this question?
I think most writers struggle with writer's block. I think I try not to call it that, because I think if I give it a dramatic diva-like name, I know what I'm like, and I know I will really ride that wave as far as I possibly can, feeling sorry for myself and that I can't do it. So I would say what I do when I'm struggling is keep writing no matter what. So just keep on getting words down. And then go back and delete most of them, but don't stop just getting anything down, even if it's just a vague direction of moving forward, and you actually go back and change actually what you've said. There might be something you can salvage from it, and it means you've not had that kind of angst. Oh, I can't write anymore.
Absolutely.
I try not to overthink it, which is ironic because I overthink absolutely everything in my entire life, but I do try not to overthink.
Yeah.
If I do overthink, it goes wrong immediately. So yeah.
Good advice. How about you, Nicola?
Yeah, I really second that advice. I think you've just got to keep going. And I do remember actually listening to Hilary Mantel on the radio, who knows a thing or two about writing. And she was saying that if you were struggling with ideas and stuff, you should get away from your desk. And I took this idea really seriously, a bit too seriously, and got away from my desk a lot. And then I suddenly realised one day that actually that the inspiration, the muse was not going to turn up in the Zara changing room. And I should...
You never know.
Sit at my desk. No. God knows I tried. So, I think you've just got to keep going. Exactly as Beck says, you've got to just show up, really. And it's like any other job. I don't suppose, anyone doing anything feels constantly up for it and inspired, but you still go every day. You still do it. And I think writing is just the same, really.
Yeah, exactly. You have to keep going.
Yeah.
Jane's just quickly asked us, which is a very important question, Jane. Can I have the titles of the books? Sorry to nostalgic diversion, of course. Well, you can tell us. Why don't you tell us the names, lovely authors? Introduce them back to Jane. Nicola, would you like to go first?
Oh, okay. Can I mention both books?
Yeah.
I want to mention The Neighbours, which is my debut, but also We Are Family, which is coming out in a couple of weeks' time. So,
yeah. And Bex?
So mine are More Than Just Mum and Faking It.
Yes, we'll add some more, we'll link some in the comments after this as well and I think I've on the description actually of this Facebook Live, I have the links there. So just so everyone knows. Sophia's asked us another question. In terms of book publishing, what are your thoughts on book contests like Publishizer? They have been asking me to submit a pitch and share extracts of my next book. The aim is to pre-sell a minimum amount of books before the contest ends. You can be offered a book deal. Interesting. What are your thoughts on book contests like this?
I don't know very much about it at all. No.
So I don't know about this specific one that Sophia's talking about. I will say that I did come second in a competition. I can't even remember who ran it now. I feel like they were called One More Chapter, but perhaps I'm just making that up. And it was a real boost in terms of my confidence. I don't know if it actually helped me to get an agent, but it certainly helped me to feel, no, actually, you need to keep going with this. So I don't know the specific one, but broadly speaking, I would say, yeah, why not?
Yeah, exactly. And especially if they're asking you to submit a pitch, then I think absolutely do it. There's nothing to lose, is there?
Yeah. Unless they're asking you for extortionate amounts of money, which is always
well, yeah, no. If it's like if it's a legit contest and it's you see there's a proper ending and something you can get out of it as well, then that's okay. So Julie's asked us, which other rom-com authors do you admire, and what makes you laugh? Very nice question. Bex, would you like to go first?
No, I'm gonna try and be. Every name goes out of my head when I get.
Yeah, no.
I mean, there's the classics. For timeless, just kind of that was probably probably the first sort of rom-com books that I read, and the whole Shopaholic series, which I thoroughly enjoyed back in the day.
Yeah.
In terms of what makes me laugh, it is the universality of life, the things that impact on us all. I love it when you're reading a book and it just makes you kind of gasp in awe that something so basic or mundane or a feeling that is absolutely yours is somebody's put it on the page. That's that common ground is what is usually where I find the things that I enjoy the most and that make me.
Yeah, and that's brought so much into your books as well. Like there's so many laugh out loud moments. Definitely. What about you, Nicola?
So many. I was a great fan. One of the Jilly Cooper books was sort of my first introduction to sort of grown-up reading, if you like.
Yeah.
Love a bit of Jilly Cooper. But just now there's so many, and I read across all genres, and there's so many authors that I absolutely love. But I think, as Beck says, you want to read things that make you feel seen and you connect with, really, and just makes you think, oh my God, they feel exactly like me.
Yeah. Amazing. Great. Well, I'm going to bring us on to the next question that I have here, which is what to do with your characters. Readers also love all the fantastic protagonists of your books, and characters. I feel to both your books are just so key. But how do you create them? Are they do you create a lovely like wall of character documents, or are they just all in your head? Or I just always find this so interesting. Would you like to go first, Nicola?
I wouldn't really.
Okay.
I've got a terrible answer to this question because, and I know my editor's watching as well. So I always want to say that I do it properly, and I have tried to do like character questionnaire, interview characters, and all this kind of stuff. And all of those things just leave me feeling flat. And actually, the only way I can really create characters is to start writing. And then once I start writing a story, I really start to get to know a character and to know how they'd respond to something and hear things they'd say, making myself sound a bit bonkers, but let's just gloss over that. And that's how I get to know them. And it's, I guess, a bit inefficient that you have to write to know them, but that's what works for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's not inefficient if that's obviously like what works for you, isn't it? And that's, that they're coming to life in your head as you write them.
Yeah.
It's amazing. What about you, Bex?
Yeah, I'm with Nicola. I would love somebody that could say, I have all this information and research on them before I begin writing, but I don't. I am anecdotal, so I'll start with a few anecdotes that I wish to sort of build them around, and then it just happens. It does mean though that in the edit process I do have quite a lot of work to do, because then it'll be pointed out, and I know my editor is watching, it'll be, well, hang on, why would this happen, or why didn't this happen, where's the growth, and I have to work. I'm on a learning curve with that, of making sure that I don't keep my character here, that they do need to progress. But I find that really exciting, and it's something that every book I write, I've learned a little more about what I need to have before I start writing. I'm usually quite impatient to start writing, and each time I'm learning to be a little slower, and sort of flesh out a little more before I actually start, with typing chapter 1 and sitting there going, I'm writing a book. It's so
it's exciting, isn't it? You just want to get started.
That's the thrill bit, the bit before. I'm getting better at it, but yeah, I'm not. I don't sort of have these fully formed characters. They form as I'm writing. So.
But I think that's and that's, I think, though, what makes your characters so relatable, though, because they're being created like as you go, rather than, I don't know, sometimes like if you were to just write something, like a sort of personality type down on paper and then just kind of stick to that, then that wouldn't be that relatable, would it?
I like characters. I like reading about characters, and I definitely like writing about characters that learn about themselves through the course of the book. So it's not, they're not fully formed at the beginning in terms of why we're choosing to tell that story today. They don't know where they're going, so it maybe works.
And that's like people, isn't it? I don't know where I'm going. Just whatever. Amazing. Hannah, your editor, has asked us, how would you like readers to feel when they put down your books? Good question. I'll ask who would like to go first, and you can volunteer.
I'll go first. I would like them to feel a little bit recognized and seen. I would like them to feel entertained. They're not going to feel more intelligent or clever after they've read one of my books. It's not going to be something that makes people, you're not going to put it down and think, my goodness, that's just changed my world. And that's not what I want, which is a good job, because it's not what I want. I would like people to put down my books and feel like they've had some entertainment, some humor, some distraction from what is going on in the world, and to feel a little bit like the way they're feeling is not particularly unusual, that other people are out there. I can remember being a mum in the playground when my kids were little, and I would often be the person sharing all the atrocious parenting decisions that I'd made, and then realized that I wasn't always getting it back from everybody else. I started to think, am I the only parent out here, the only woman who's struggling with all of this? And it's taken me a long time to realize, no, just not everybody feels the need to blurge it out every single time. So for those people that don't particularly want to go out and wear their heart on their sleeve but are still struggling with it, maybe it helps a little. Realize you're not the only one.
I love that, definitely. How about you, Nicola?
Yeah, same. So I think, again, you want people to feel seen, and that, you've understood their feelings about things. And I guess you want people to have to go a bit into cliches, but you want people to have laughed and cried and to use a modern expression, to have had all the feels.
Yeah.
And just feel, you know, really glad that they read it, but a bit sad to put it down, because that's how I feel when I've read a book I love.
Absolutely. I love that phrase. That's really nice. That's really nice said. So my next question for you both is a very important one. And that is, can you tell us what you're working on now? Or perhaps in Nicola's case, what's about to come out as well. So again, I will ask you both. Who would like to begin?
Should I do this one?
Sure.
So I don't think I'm allowed to tell you what I'm working on now. So that's a very short answer to that one, but I can tell you about.
Tell us what's coming out. Yeah.
So We Are Family is coming out in 2 weeks' time, unbelievably, 2 weeks tomorrow. And it's the story of two sisters, Laura and Jess, and Laura and Jess are very, very different people. So you've got Laura, who's very laid back. If she's had a hard day, she likes to take to her bed with a block of cheese. And then you've got Jess, the sort of classic big sister, the sort of overachiever, queen of the family WhatsApp. And then their mum, whose side note is, I think, what we would kindly describe as a character. Their mum dies, and the sisters are really sort of thrown together for the first time in years. And at first, it's sort of predictably awful because they can't agree on anything. They can't agree to where to scatter the ashes. They can't even agree if passed away is an acceptable term. But actually, the more they're thrown together, they realise that actually they're stronger as a team, and actually, when it comes to it, family sometimes can be everything.
Oh, that sounds brilliant. And just so many, you know, those, I get, especially, you know, well, that sort of big moment of death and such a close death to you, but then also all the sort of you know, when you have to figure it all out afterwards, but then there can be some weirdly funny moments and like sad, and just all those emotions when they're so jumbled up together. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And just, yes, exactly. And I think Afterlife's a great example, isn't it, of how, you know, I mean, grief's, you know, it's going to happen to us all at some point in our life, and it's terrible and it's awful, but there are funny moments, bizarrely, as there are in all the darkest times. Yeah,
and I think it's really important for people to, you know, experience that and understand that. Oh, I'm very excited to read it. Can't wait. How about you, Bex?
Before I say that one, I'm very lucky enough to have a copy of We Are Family by Nicola, and I've started to read it, and I'm loving it. The dynamic between the two sisters is brilliant. It's so good. There are some very lucky readers out there in for a treat when it comes out in a couple of weeks. It's a fantastic book.
Thank you.
And it is making me laugh and making me wince and and I'm seeing that it's got all that relatable dynamics between the sisters, which is so good.
Thank you.
Great, I'm loving it. In terms of what I'm working on now, I've got a couple of writing projects, one for children, one for adults, and mostly as a primary school teacher, working on getting into school in September in a calm and sensible manner.
Oh God, yeah, it's very soon. Very soon. That's
right. Great, because it's a marvelous distraction.
Yeah, absolutely. But the adult book you're working on, is it going to be more in this? Are we going to see more of Hannah Thompson, or is it going to be a whole new?
Possibly. Yeah. Watch this space.
Very excited. But in the meantime, Faking It has just come out, so everyone make sure you pick that up and read that. So we've got another question from Tanya, from someone who has just started attempting to write. Do you become attached to your characters?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I very much do. I mean, possibly not aided by the fact that, again, as I said, I do tend to base characters on my nearest and dearest in some loose way, not actually them, but it does. I do become attached to the characters, and I find it quite hard to write bad things happening to characters I like.
Yeah, I bet. How about you, Nicola?
Yeah, I get massively attached to my characters, and actually, when people are a bit sort of critical of them or their actions, whatever, I'm like, so what are you saying? these people, you know, they're my people. But yeah, I think if you're not getting attached to your characters, you can't really expect your readers to. You've got to care about them, otherwise how's a reader going to connect with them? And that doesn't mean to say, by the way, that all your characters need to be good and perfect. It's quite the opposite. I mean, actually, Cassie, so sort of the antagonist, if you like, from the Neighbours, she's in many ways pretty awful, but I sort of love her at the same time. It's good to be able to write some outrageous characters too, who can do all the things that you never would.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So Katie has asked us, who's the favourite character you've written? That's a tough question, Katie, I feel. I mean,
yeah.
If it's not for you guys, I don't know. I'm not an author. I'm just thinking it is. Who would like to go first on this one?
Yeah, I can. I would say it has to be Hannah, who is the star of More Than Just Mum and Faking It.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with what Nicola said, because a lot of Hannah is not me, but a lot of Hannah I know is based on me. And I had a review that she was annoying, and I was really offended.
That is true.
Not a hard worker. She just moans a lot. And I was like, oh, I think that is me. So it's quite hard when you're like, oh, I'm maybe a little bit emotionally invested here. Perhaps I need to back off a little. Yeah, but no, I think in terms of being able, with Hannah being a character in her 40s who's experimenting with trying to find her identity and figure out, can she be the sex goddess as well as being a mother of children, as well as being a teacher, as well as trying to not burn the fish fingers, and trying to rediscover our marriage. All of those things, it's great for me as a woman in my 40s to be able to kind of let her do things and say things and experience things that I clearly am incapable.
Is that quite cathartic then, perhaps?
Very.
Yeah. I love it. How about you, Nicola?
It's a really hard question to answer, but I'm going to say, if I had to pick just one, I would say that my favourite is Laura, who's the main character in my new book, We Are Family. Because there's just something about Laura. She's always getting it wrong, and you know, she's never kind of quite got her life together. That, you know, is just sort of so endearing and so relatable, really. And I mentioned before about how, you know, she's a journalist, but you know, she works on a fairly sort of terrible women's magazine, and you know, she's always writing these sort of slightly bizarre stories about, oh, I'm addicted to eating washing up sponges and things like that. So she hasn't quite ended up in the sort of changing the world sort of journalism she once thought she would. And yeah, she was just a lot of fun to write, Laura.
She's quite vulnerable, isn't she?
Yeah, she is
feisty, kind of the best kind.
Yeah, and she's I think she's always felt, I mean, her mum is you know, a piece of work, I think we would say. And she had Laura and her mum had quite a tricky relationship, and I think that's had an impact in how she views her self-confidence. But you know, but actually her mum was fun to write as well, because you know, she does all the things that mums aren't supposed to do.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds great. I'm very excited to read it. So now my final question for you both, because we're at the end of our book club all of a sudden. Crazy. But anyone, if you do have any last questions, please ask them now. But so this is one that I'd love all the viewers out there to answer as well. It's what I always end on. It can be, I guess, a tricky question sometimes. And that is, what would you say about the book when pressing it into someone else's hands? Ooh. Tension. Bex, would you like to go first?
Well, I think I've slightly answered this in that I would say I hope this makes you laugh. Yeah, it's not going to make you feel clever, but it might make you laugh. Really, it is really. Actually, I suppose faking it. I think maybe more than just mum, addresses a little bit more about being body positive and sex positive, and it's without it being a book, hopefully, where that is slammed in your face. And so I would hope it would be a book that ultimately makes any woman reading it feel good, and makes them laugh at the same time.
Yeah, love that. How about you, Nicola?
What would I say? I would say I hope you enjoy it. I hope it makes you feel seen. And write me a review. Because I didn't realise, actually, I have to say, having been a voracious reader for years, it wasn't until I got published that I realised how important reviews are to authors. And now I feel retrospective guilt for all the times I've read and loved a book but haven't reviewed it. So now I I make sure that if I like a book, that I leave them a nice review on Amazon.
Yeah,
one.
Absolutely. Reviews are just so important. So I'm sure everyone out there watching knows that already too. But if you haven't, please always leave us reviews on our books, and please let them always be good ones. Thank you.
Yes, nice ones.
Yeah, I don't understand people when they leave like the bad reviews. I'm like, but why? Like, you didn't need to do that. You could have just thought that and not left the bad review, you know? That's what I think anyway. G. Smith said, "This is not based on true events, I promise, more than just bum."
Who possibly wrote that?
Who could possibly write that? Hilarious. Oh no. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for such a fun lunchtime chat. It was just so great to, chat about everything and hear all about your, 4 amazing books, and the 2 almost latest one, Faking It, and Almost Out one, We Are Family. They sound so brilliant. And so everyone, if you haven't ordered or read any of these yet, please do, because they will definitely make you smile. But anyway, yes. So thank you so much to you both.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
Cool. So I'll just disappear away, lovely Bex and Nicola, and then I'll tell you about what's coming up next, everyone. But yeah, so thank you so much to you both, and have a lovely rest of your afternoon.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Amazing. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us today, and to Bex and Nicola for such a fun discussion. It definitely cheered up this rainy Wednesday for me. So I just want to quickly let you know about what we have coming up. You may have seen posts across our social, but from this Friday, we are beginning a week-long read-along of The Last Charm by Ella Albright. Each day we'll be posting book club questions to create discussion, and running competitions and challenges with great prizes up for grabs. We have lots of fantastic bloggers and bookstagrammers helping us to host and spread the word of the read-along far and wide. So I just can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. It will launch on Friday at 1 p.m. when I will be hosting a Facebook Live with the author herself to hear more about the book. And we'll also let you know the first competition that we're running then too. So you definitely don't want to miss this fantastic read along. So do join me on Friday, and please get any family or friends to join that you think will enjoy too. So I shall see you then. But for the meantime, have a great rest of your day.